Rumble is in the books, and we are on the road to WrestleMania. It was a long 4 matches and 4.5 hours show, but overall, I thought it was a lot of fun. I think that some of the decisions they made were pretty surprising. So I just have some notes here, things kind of want to run through everything that happened. Felt like a lot happened. So let's just go through. I've got everything written down in the order that it happened. So I will get the big news out of the way first. We have our two Royal Rumble winners, and they are Charlotte Flair and main event Jey Uso. Michael Cole with an incredible call. Main event is not just a nickname anymore. Had all three of the announcers on the table yeeting along with him to celebrate in what is probably going to be one of the more polarizing Royal Rumble decisions in recent memory. I've already seen a lot of people questioning if this is like the worst or most questionable decision of Triple H's time booking. But I got to be honest, and I'll get to the men's match in a little bit, but I loved it. I loved the surprise of it, the thrill of it, seeing someone like Jey Uso, who over the last year has been on such an incredible run. It felt like the story was staring me in the face, with the story being that he cannot win the big one, and it felt like he had that moment with the IC title, and that felt like a nice culmination before he would go back into teaming with Jimmy Uso and with the bloodline and everything. And then that kind of happened, and he just went back to being main event Jey Uso, like top of the show, close the show, huge matches every week. And so I should have seen this coming more, but I love that now we're getting to, okay, he has to win the big one. I think it's such an interesting story to tell in the middle of all of these other legends, like living legends, who their stories kind of tell themselves almost. Like it's baked into the match where you're like, oh, if so-and-so wins, we're going to get this. And if so-and-so wins, we get this. And it like writes itself. And I kind of thought, and I don't remember if I said it during the preview and everything that I recorded, but I kind of thought that everything felt too obvious, that there was a swerve waiting somewhere for something to happen, because it felt too straightforward, and I just don't get the impression that this regime likes doing straightforward. I really feel like they like and value that out of nowhere surprise. So I'm kind of like surprised how surprised I am. Like I should have seen this coming a little bit more, but like I said, we will get to the men's rumble. We had 4 matches on the card tonight. We started with the women's Royal Rumble, which I thought had the potential on paper to be the best women's Royal Rumble ever. And I don't think it got there. I don't think it was the best. I don't think it was bad. But I was a little disappointed with how segmented it felt. It felt like there was a lot of cool stuff to start. It felt like, we kind of dragged a little bit in the middle. There were a couple times where it looked like people just didn't know what to do, which is crazy. And I mean, I can't really speak to that because I can't imagine the pressure of a multi-woman match to that level for over an hour. But there were some incredible performances. We had Io Sky and Liv Morgan and Roxanne Perez, who all went for over an hour. Roxanne Perez is now the longest time spent in a single women's Royal Rumble, which is incredible considering I think it's just her second or her third Royal Rumble. But I really enjoyed a lot of it. And then, like I said, it felt segmented at parts. It felt disjointed at parts. And then Charlotte Flair came out. And we knew this was happening. We've seen the vignettes the last few weeks. She had pyro in the Royal Rumble entrance, which should have been all we needed to know that this was a wrap. Like, even Wade Barrett was like, pyro in an entrance in the Royal Rumble? Like, what? And then she just strolled down. There was no running. There was no urgency. She just was like, I'm not running down this ramp. But she looked great for having not wrestled since, I think it's a January 2023. Like, she looked like she had not missed a beat. So I'm wondering if she took more time training and recovering than was needed, just to avoid any rust or anything like that, because she looked like she picked up right where she left off. And like I said before, Roxanne Perez, the longest performance ever in a Royal Rumble, in a women's Royal Rumble now. Really, though, NXT was a huge winner here. Their women's division benefited a lot throughout this match. You had Lash Legend, you had Roxanne Perez, you had Jada Parker, You had Jordan Grace, if she's going to be there. You had the NXT Women's Champion Julia. You had Stephanie Vaquer. And they all came in and they all had good performances. I was a little surprised how fast it felt like Julia was eliminated. I was a little surprised that the indie crowd wasn't like super into the moment of Julia and Io Sky facing off. Like, I don't know if that just didn't sound loud or what, but like felt like they kind of like weren't recognizing what that feud could be. But the NXT women's division looked incredible top to bottom throughout this whole match. You had someone there the whole time, Jordan Grace, the incredible Death Valley driver on Piper Niven. Just incredible performances all around. I really think they showed out a lot in this opportunity and on this stage, and they were probably the most consistent performers of the whole thing. I was really excited because I thought we were going to get a Lash Legend Bianca Belair stare down or something, and that just never happened, so that kind of felt like a bummer. And Chelsea Green was someone else I thought was really entertaining start to finish, and her time felt like she really made the most of it, and there were a couple spots where it seemed like she was going to get eliminated, and she was able to hold on and able to hold on. And so I really enjoyed that as well. I think she really was someone who made a lot of her time and kind of carried a lot of the action in those points where it was kind of dipping a bit, or where, you know, they may not have known exactly what to do. And like I said, I should have known that Charlotte was going to win when she got the pyro and all of the video packages. Now I'm really curious to see where we're going with her as the winner. I think Charlotte Tiffany Stratton makes a lot of sense, especially as the company is trying to, you know, cement Tiffany as one of those top tier stars. I think, you know, who better than Charlotte Flair at WrestleMania? But I do think there's a lot of logic in Charlotte and Rhea Ripley as a match too, given their history. So I could see them going that route too. I'm sure this is going to get stretched out over the next few weeks, if not months. We've got a while to get to WrestleMania. We've got 3 months to fill basically to get to WrestleMania, so we'll probably drag this out a bit. But I'm really intrigued because it does feel like she presents two entirely unique feuds and routes for them to go with this, and I'd honestly be happy to see either one, but I'm kind of hoping that we go Charlotte Tiffany Stratton just to get that fresh matchup, and because I still really want Rhea Ripley Bianca Belair to be that Mania match. And then the last thing I will say about the Women's Royal Rumble was there was the spot near the end where Nia Jax eliminated like 6 women at once, knocking them all off the apron and then knocking the last 2 off. Just didn't work for me. I don't know. I might just be nitpicking or you know, I don't know, but I just wasn't really wasn't for me. It felt like a lot of important women got knocked out in a pretty nonchalant way. Bianca Belair, Naomi, Stephanie Vaquer was in there. And it just, I don't know. I would have liked to see, I know the match was probably going long because it had already been on for a long time at that point, but I would have liked to see a little bit more there. Like the Nia Jax clear the ring spot was something that I was kind of waiting for. I saw a lot of people online kind of like, okay, like the ring still looks pretty full. Probably got to get to this. And I just think it could have been better executed. But like I said, that's a nitpick and a personal preference more than anything. And if anything, it's more I wanted to see those stars continue to get more focus, and you know, eliminating them all in a bulk like that when there's so many big names in it, it just didn't hit like the shock I'm sure they were like intending it to be. Just for me, at least. Then we followed it up with 4 guys I feel very bad for. The spot they were put in was the Motor City Machine Guns and DIY in a 2 out of 3 falls match for the tag titles. Following this type of match, following a Royal Rumble match, especially one that featured so many big returns, I will get to those in a little bit as well. Big returns, big appearances, huge moments. It's never going to be an easy thing to do, but these guys went out there. They had a really good match. It was a lot of fun. I think they wrestled a very nice style. I said the other day I was really excited for them to get the chance to do this on the main show and not just on the SmackDown Go Home show. And to that end, I think it was a success, but I don't think the crowd gave them as much as they could have in terms of reactions. And I think honestly part of the ending hurt that too, because you had the Street Profits attack the Motor City Machine Guns so that DIY could retain. only for the Profits to then attack DIY. And you have Wade Barrett screaming like, this doesn't make any sense. And Michael Cole's like talking over him like, yes, it does. Let me tell you. Yes, it does. Let me tell you. Like over and over, he's saying it and like it just trying to get the story out. And it just felt really disjointed. And the story being, the Street Profits are so upset at DIY that they attacked the Motor City Machine Guns because they want to beat DIY for the titles. It's a little convoluted. Just have them attack DIY and then have the Machine Guns get mad and then have them attack the Machine Guns if you're going to have them be doing this tweener or full heel type of gimmick now that they're finally back. I'm really glad they're back, and I think a triple threat between these three teams at WrestleMania in, I don't know, like a ladder match or something could be a ton of fun. I hope that that's the direction that we're going with this feud, because the Profits are too talented to not be on the show every single month. Like, I don't understand how they're not in bigger, higher profile feuds and matches all the time. I know it's a stuffed roster, and I know everyone, there's things that have to be done for everyone, but those guys are in my estimation, they're undeniable. Then we had our other non-Rumble match, and it was Cody Rhodes and Kevin Owens in a blood war for the undisputed WWE title. This was incredible. It's Kevin Owens still best shirts in the game. The Canadian Dream, son of a systems technician, is just an incredible. I'm so glad they're finally actually selling it. I may have to get, I don't know. But they had an unbelievable match. Kevin Owens, such an interesting Royal Rumble history. Michael Cole said it. He has the most title matches on the Royal Rumble card in history. I don't remember. I think it was 7. I don't think he gave the actual number, but I was reading it the other day. I think it's 7 or 8 title matches on the Royal Rumble alone. Like, he's like the non-Rumble main event every time. And it's because he's so good. He's so good at what he does, and he's so believable in just about everything that he does in the ring. He's such a smart wrestler, and he knows what to do. And these guys had a great match. I thought this one was a bit better than the Saturday night main event match between them, and I honestly, that's probably in large part because this was a weapons match, a stipulations match with the ladders. And I can't believe some of the spots these guys were doing with the ladders and the step ladders. And then the end, we get that dark side from Cody Rhodes where he just kind of snaps and loses it. He hits Kevin Owens with the Alabama Slam through a ladder. Looked like Kevin Owens' head was stuck. And he's like walking around celebrating while they're trying to like pull a bleeding Kevin Owens out of this ladder. And then he walked over and he stood above him and he held the titles up and celebrated and like looked at Sami Zayn, who was there tending to his friend, and was like, he wanted this. This is what he asked for, and like kept celebrating. And it's such a good picture, but it's also such a nice story moment, because now you have the seed planted for, if they decide to go the route of turning Sami Zayn heel with this, they have this like, hey, you did not have to go that far and do all of that. I understand you were mad, but you took it too far with all of this, and then standing over him while he's hurt. Like it's those justifiable heels that make these stories so good, and it's why Kevin Owens has been so good in this feud in particular. That giving that kind of like branch to Sami Zayn to take is a really smart move. I really think that this type of moment and this type of hubris is going to be the type of thing that comes back to bite Cody Rhodes storyline wise. And it's just a nice detail in the moment. Even I was just like, man, what a smart move. Like, what a good decision here. And then we had the men's rumble. Like at this point, it was just about like 5:45, 5:50. I think my time, like 3 hours in, just about, and I was like, "Oh, this is going very long, I guess." And the men's match was good. Like I said, it's similar with the women's. It felt a little bit segmented off. We had the great start with Penta and Rey Mysterio, which unfortunately might be overshadowed by the slight botch that Penta had, where it looked like both his feet touched the ground, so they just never showed a replay. You know his feet touched the ground when they don't show a replay, and you hear the announcers like, only 1 foot, 1 foot, that's 1 foot that touched. It was 1 foot. Remember, Penta had 1 foot. Like, they were really hammering that home. And so it's clear that, that was a bummer to start off with. But after that, like that moment of Penta and Rey Mysterio showing each other that respect, and that face off with the crowd just going crazy, that was so cool to see. And to me, that really kind of speaks to Penta's presentation so far in WWE, that this was treated as such a big moment of this magnitude. And I think it speaks to how well WWE has booked him and his presentation to start. And I should have known he was going to be one of the top two so they could get that entrance on TV. I kind of had it in my head that it would be Carmelo Hayes and Trick Williams, but I think that's just me being too NXT brained. Like, I don't think enough people would know that, just the main roster fans that don't watch the other things would know that. So I should have seen it coming a mile away. I should have known it was going to be Penta. But those guys were great to see. Yeah, so after that, it kind of settled into a nice little roll. We had a little bit of a run where there wasn't really like a huge, shocking return or debut. We got Joe Hendry made an appearance, and that was great. I was very happy to see him. Kind of thought there would be more people from TNA, but I think it might be just a little too difficult to navigate that when you have guys over there that are wrestling under names that aren't their WWE names. Like Nick Nemeth was the TNA champion for a long time before he dropped it to Joe Hendry, but he's Dolph Ziggler. So you can't have Nick Nemeth come out and be like, oh, it's TNA's Nick Nemeth. And all the fans are like, that's Dolph Ziggler. What are we doing? AJ Francis has had a huge run over in TNA. They can't be like, that's Top Dollar. Or Michael Cole, like, that's Flop Dollar. Well, look, it's Flop Dollar. So can't be doing that. So it was a little underwhelming in that sense. There weren't a whole lot of NXT stars either that were in this. Like Trick Williams was someone I thought would get a big runway here and would get a lot of chances to show off, and he wasn't even in the match. So it felt like it really was favoring those top people in those top storylines. And, the second and third halves of the match, like once Roman Reigns hit the ring, basically, it kind of started to pick up, and we had Roman and Jacob Fatu. There was a great run where we had John Cena, CM Punk, and Seth Rollins enter in that order. And it's like, wow. And we got that standoff moment with Reigns and Punk and Cena. And it's like generations of wrestling history right here. And there were some really cool moments like that. AJ Styles is back, and he had his old entrance music. It was great. It was like, oh man, finally, we are finally here. It's beautiful to see. And then it just kind of like, I don't know. It unfolded in a way that wasn't as exciting as like it should have felt. CM Punk eliminated Rollins and Reigns at the same time because those guys could not stop fighting each other. CM Punk then immediately got dumped out by Logan Paul in a move that felt like random. Logan Paul got dumped out almost immediately by John Cena, and we were left in like a matter of moments. We went from 5 or 6 of these top wrestlers ever in the ring into a Jey Uso, John Cena final 2, and it felt like whiplash with how fast all of this unfolded in the closing minutes of the match. And then Jey Uso pulled off the upset. He got the win. John Cena went right back in to kind of congratulate him and shake his hand, and he started celebrating, and people went crazy. And it's weird because there was no Randy Orton. In the women's match, there was no Becky Lynch. There was no Jade Cargill. We did get Nikki Bella. We did get Alexa Bliss is finally back. That was probably the biggest pop of the night, was her return. So we had some really good. Trish Stratus came back and looked great for being a 25-year veteran in the business now. Wearing, I think, what she wore when she originally debuted as a manager for Test and Albert. So there was a lot of moments, and the Women's Rumble did lend itself to more of those, kind of like I thought it might. But the men's was just, it was surprisingly so, like, focused on itself. Like, it didn't have a lot of the thing. Like, Logan Paul did the Kofi Kingston spot because Kofi Kingston just wasn't in the match. And that feels kind of weird, like, given how big their heel run has been so far. Not having either of them and then having Logan Paul do the spot is just kind of, I don't know. They had ISHO Speed popped up to fill in for an injured Akira Tozawa, and he came in and got folded in half by Braun Breaker, and that was about it. But he got to eliminate Otis. And so it was just a weird flow to this Rumble. And I'm someone who's pretty much always going to like it because I just enjoy the Rumble and the excitement around it. I loved the details of like having the stats at the bottom bar. I know a lot of people did not like that, but I really enjoyed that they had the live ticker stats basically with like, here's how many people are in, here's how many eliminations, here's the next number, here are the last few entrants. Like I really liked that. I thought that was a great implementation for the men and the women. I just, and like I said, I agree with both of them winning. I think Jey Uso winning is a huge surprise in a field that is so full of like such ready-made stories. And Charlotte, I should have just seen coming. I don't know why I thought someone would eliminate her, but I did. Um, and I just, yeah, I overall I enjoyed it, but I don't think it was as good as in my head I thought it was going to be. And I think that might be something that's like, it's exclusive to the Royal Rumble now. Where like in your head, you know what the Royal Rumble is. It's so fun. It's such a cool, unique premise. Once a year, you get excited, and then it kind of just was like, okay, that was cool. There were some good moments. There were some crazy things. Like I think I enjoyed the Cody Rhodes Kevin Owens match more than either of the Rumbles as a whole. But I enjoyed parts of both of the Rumbles a lot. There's parts I'll rewatch again. I'm excited to see how many different feuds are going to come out of this. I think they really did a lot to make Braun Breaker look like an absolute star. I hope he just gets absolutely pushed to the moon. I would like to see more happen with the TNA guys and them mixing it up a little bit more. I thought maybe even Matt Cardona would pop up, formerly known as Zack Ryder. I thought he might appear, but no such luck there either. And then overall, that's just kind of it. And so now we have, Jey Uso has kind of already called out Gunther, who we just saw that match a couple weeks ago. So the build is going to be an interesting one because, like I said, we have months away from WrestleMania now. We have Charlotte, who's going to definitely prolong her choice. We don't even really know if she's a heel or a baby face. And now I think the bigger question is just all of the unknowns of people that we thought were going to win. Presumably guys like John Cena, CM Punk, Drew McIntyre, and, maybe Logan Paul, maybe Sami Zayn, maybe Kevin Owens. They're all, probably going to be in the Elimination Chamber next month for that last ditch shot at Mania. And I don't know. It felt like there were a lot of things that could have been either moved forward or could have had some sort of development with them. Like Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens, the whole thing was about Sami Zayn having Kevin Owens back, and then he just watched him get slammed through a ladder. And obviously, Kevin Owens, isn't going to come out and screw Sami. But then for Sami Zayn to just come out and compete and just get eliminated, like, oh, okay. Like the stakes that were presented weren't like utilized. And I don't know if that's to misdirect or what it is, but I was really surprised that that wasn't something that came into play a little bit more. I think they mentioned a little bit while Paul Heyman was out with Roman Reigns, like, what's the favor that Punk asks? Like, what's Punk need? And I have thoughts about what that could be. And the thought I had involves a certain Texas Rattlesnake that has close ties to Paul Heyman. That would be a dream match that would certainly main event a night of WrestleMania, and get Punk the main event in the show that way. I kind of think that's where that might be going, but now we have to see, is Logan Paul going to be a part of this because he eliminated him? Are they going Seth and Roman in a singles match with no title, or is Seth a heel now because he kind of snapped and just destroyed Roman outside after getting eliminated? It just feels like there's so much left to do, and I think talking through this right now, that makes more sense because, like I said, it is 2 months away at minimum from WrestleMania. I think it's the second week of April is WrestleMania, and we're on February 2nd right now. So plenty of time to get there, and these stories are going to be the type of stories that can develop and have different nuances to them, as opposed to just John Cena won. John Cena wants to break the record, so he's calling out Cody Rhodes. I still think that's the money match for Cody Rhodes, but I'll be interested to see how we get there and what that's going to look like. If Elimination Chamber is, the other title shot, or if it's for one of the titles. But now we have Jey Uso chasing Gunther. Presumably, I don't think Gunther is going to drop the title before we get to this match, because now Gunther represents everything that Jey Uso can't overcome. he's the one that Jey Uso can't beat, that Jey Uso can't win the big one. So what better than the biggest one, basically, outside of, Roman Reigns and that whole story. So I'm really interested to see where that's going to go and all the twists and turns that that's going to take, because I think Jey Uso winning opens up some more things for some of those other guys too, like Seth Rollins, Sami Zayn. How do they react when they see someone else getting that success when they're already in the midst of this kind of like slight heel turn? So I do really enjoy it from that sense. I think it just, as a match overall, didn't feel as fulfilling as it could, even if the finish was nice and Jey Uso winning was a genuinely like stunning surprise. So I think that's everything. That's everything I had written down for my notes. Let me know what you thought about it too. If you enjoyed this Rumble, if you agree with both of the winners, what your favorite spot or performance or match of the night was. Let me know your thoughts. I would love to hear it. But yeah, we'll see. It's always fun to have a Royal Rumble. We are on the road to WrestleMania. Get ready to hear that quite a lot. We got our first 2 sign points of the WrestleMania season. So I guess here we go.